Like a good story ramping to an incredible climax, two of the final 3 rounds in front of us pose the greatest challenge the drivers have seen yet. Long Beach and Bathurst back-to-back will test even the best out there. But they all must tackle it one step at a time, and the California Street Course is up first. Who will get to claim the inaugural victory here? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 12 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth today is Chad Irvine and DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Long Beach was a much-anticipated circuit for iRacing fans. A decade of waiting paid off in the end, so let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Long Beach. Nestled into the south side of Los Angeles and running alongside the Pacific Ocean, this street circuit has made the port area world famous. Both Formula One and IndyCar have called this 2-mile, 11-turn circuit home. Winning here has become a prestige worth boasting about among open-wheel pilots. Indeed, the winners list includes the likes of Lauda, Andretti, Unser, Montoya, Power, and many other legendary names in racing. Much like its European sister over in Monaco, it's short, tight, and punishing. But unlike Monte Carlo, this circuit emerged from a rundown piece of California coast to grow into the glamorous location it is today. Down into Turn 1 at the end of Shoreline Drive is where the majority of overtakes tend to be made. But sneaky passes can also pop up in places like 6 on the way into Pine Avenue, or Turn 9 at the end of Seaside Way. There's also 2 distinctive landmarks notorious for causing track blockages. The fountain section, with all its beauty, is a single-file affair save for the first lap. And the hairpin has been a staple here, even though it's changed locations a few times. In fact, that last hairpin not only includes the dangers of getting tangled with another car, but the important nature of getting the best exit you can to keep your rival from having a chance to pass you into the first corner. It feels appropriate that California's signature street track is a hop, skip, and a jump away from the beach. But while others might be trying to attack the surf, our drivers today will be attacking the corners instead. Well, DJ, this series has raced at tracks such as Montreal before, but never a street course quite like this.
Well, Joe, this is one of the most famous street courses in the world, and it is also one of the most difficult. And for all 3 classes out here tonight, it is going to be a real handful. The 2 areas we always talk about being difficult, well, that's that final turn, the hairpin, as well as the fountain section. All 3 classes, you will be able to see a little bit of passing going down into Turn 1, as well as the Firestone turn off of the backstretch. But because this is a 3-class, multi-class field, traffic is going to be the big key. In that first sector, really on the run all the way through the fountain section and back onto that little mini straight before the Tecate turn, that's going to be the first chance on the lap drivers are going to have to be able to get by some slower class traffic. You're going to be able to see some stuff through there, up Pine Avenue into Seaside Way, I think, and then again onto the back straightaway. But do not be surprised if we have some major incidents with slower traffic and drivers getting massively held up going through Turn 1 and into the fountain and coming out of that hairpin. That, more than anything, I think is going to be the storyline of this race.
Definitely have to watch out for that. But it's been interesting in the 3 championships and the teams, starting off with the prototypes. Jason DeVries slipping back far enough that David Williams can't seal it up this evening, but he can certainly set himself up to where he'll be in a great position to finish it off before the season is over at Bathurst. You got a long ways back to Josh Wolf back in 3rd as well, where he's still fighting with Billy Smith to try and determine that last podium spot, split by about 4 points, and then only 2 more back to Carter Kundinger. It's kind of a battle of best of the rest, though Jason is not mathematically out of it. What about the GT Pros, DJ?
Well, Joe, it couldn't be tighter at the top as we have a tie between Kevin Binkley and Ross Booth for that first position. And they are and have been in a league of their own this entire championship. Behind them, Christopher Pye's 70 points back with Stephen Jeffrey in third, courtesy of two second place finishes in a row. But he's got another tie behind him, very close on his heels, Turcotte and Marc-Antoine Thibault. Only 3 points back from him, with Vance Bow having a good look as well, 3 points back from fourth.
And of course, we also have the GTAM standings. Chad, why don't you run us down that?
Yeah, Ryan Wasilewski just running away with it. I mean, he's 46 points ahead of Joey Atterbury. Enough of an advantage that as long as he does not lose points to Atterbury, he can clinch that championship here tonight. Ryan Robertson, 83 points back, and that's far enough that I think he's basically eliminated from taking that second spot as well. But just behind him, Kevin Santana, we've talked about him the last couple races. He hasn't been running in the GT AM category. I don't even see him running here tonight, but he's definitely kind of taking himself out of contention there, not running the GTM class the last couple of races. And Luke Schmidt, 105 points back, so not much competition in the GTM category for the overall season championship.
And for the team's championship, once again, look at this, a tie at the top. And this late in the season, I'm not sure if we've ever seen a tie in the team's championship this far down the line, just because it's so unusual that they'd be able to match on points in that way. But DMG United have switched around their drivers a little bit over the course of the season, and that has brought them to the fore and caught them back up with VRS Satellite Racing. Autobahn East is a distant 118 points back. And then you can see it's more of a battle for third between Lap Rats and Autobahn North, only 19 points splitting them. A little bit down to AOD Racing, including guys like Kundinger and Islam. We also have race details. DJ, what are we in for this evening?
Well, Joe, as you said here, we've only 3 races to go, including this one, as we are on the 12 of 14 rounds here in this Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. It is a 60-minute race here tonight. It is the last sprint race of the season. Now, those 3 classes that we talked about, the prototypes, the LMP2s, that is going to be those new Dallara chassis. In the GT Pro category, drivers have that choice between the GTE cars, BMW M8, the Corvette, and the Porsche 911 RSR. And more choices abound still in the GTM category with the Lamborghini, the BMW, and the Ferrari. But one of the crucial things here, no fast repair, so very, very tricky with these walls being so close. But don't forget about the bonus points that get awarded. You get a bonus point for pole, you get a bonus point for fastest lap, and you get a bonus point for no incidents, which frankly, at Long Beach, if you get no incidents, you're finishing the race. If you pick up an incident, well, that means you've hit the wall and your race is probably done.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was thinking when I was considering those incident points. But as we look at the qualifying, which is now in the midst of itself for the prototype class, David Williams has that provisional pole currently. We've got our pit reporter back once again. Cy Andra joins us down on the lane. Welcome back to the team here, Cy. And I know you've been kind of looking at the pit entry and pit exit here. What have you spotted that's significant about those two?
Well, we all know the pit exit at Long Beach is notorious for having side-by-side drag races down to turn 1, but it's always the people leaving pits that are at a disadvantage because they have to go all the way around the outside of turn 1. They can't cut across and take the apex, and there's been a lot of controversy in recent IndyCar races that have been at Long Beach about how early you can take that left-hander, and it's going to be very interesting because on cold tires it's easy to outbrake yourself and go down into the runoff at the entry of turn 1. So, and the pit entry isn't all that easy either with the sort of quick chicane that the attenuator has grabbed a lot of people off guard there.
This is Williams crossing the line, and a 1:11.941 is about 100th, less than 100th off of his quickest. So he's being chased by Josh Wolf and Jason DeVries. DeVries is championship rival right now. Those two each within 0.17 of a second on our pole sitter. So it is very tight up at the top right now. Robert Tinsley is actually last of the qualifiers currently, but only half a tenth off of Leif Peterson. Just hasn't seemed to have taken to these LMP2s like he did in the HPDs, and he said as much himself. Leif Peterson coming around as now we look at Jason DeVries. Last lap was a 1:12.2, so that's not going to improve for him.
And Leif was not able to set a time here. We're going to check as Mark Wilson now crosses the line. He's going to be able to improve ever so slightly. He'll stay in 6th position with that time, though. Joe, the one thing we're really seeing, Joshua Wolf crossing over, unable to improve. I'm not seeing a whole lot of improvement, but we are seeing a whole bunch of consistency as their Kundinger goes up to 5th. A lot of consistency from these drivers. Everybody putting in very, very similar times to their fastest laps over and over again.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned the incident points and hitting the walls, DJ, with the bonus points for that and everything, because last round we didn't have a single driver pick up that bonus point. Nobody came away with 0x at Hockenheim. Now, I don't think we're going to be able to get away with that today, because there's got to be some people who will have 0x out there, else there's going to be a lot of damaged cars. Leif Peterson going to pull over and not finish his lap, which has Jason DeVries coming across, and it's a 1:12 flat. That's 0.2 quicker, but still doesn't take him above David Williams or Josh Wolf. He stays in 3rd.
When you can see it there on your screen, only about 100th of a second off of that time. There goes Wilson, able to improve by a couple hundredths of a second, but he'll stay in 6th. David Williams now coming across the line. That's a slow lap for him. I'd imagine that's a bit of a warm-up. Looks like Joshua Wolf crossed over the line, unable to improve, and he's going to call it a day on that lap.
They still got 3 minutes left, and they do circulate here pretty quickly, comparable to the IndyCar times. These prototype cars. Ganchin struggling with that hairpin to get the thing turned around, so I'm not sure this will be a quick lap for him. Let's watch as he crosses. No, 1:13.7 is almost a full second off of his fastest. Tinsley now ahead of Peterson. Not going to have that lap count. It must have been an out lap for him, which takes us once again back to DeVries.
Jason coming out of that corner, very, very narrow line through there. He may have lost a little bit of speed on corner exit. You normally want to swing that out a little closer to the wall, but let's see what Jason can do. Didn't lose any time. That's an 11.8, and he is at the top of the charts.
Wow. So David Williams loses his pole, but it is still 2 100ths that separate him and DeVries. Can he take this back as he crosses? Oh, he's just short of it. And we have only 2 cars under the 112s right now, DeVries and Williams, with Wolf off by just a couple hundredths himself. This is Leif Peterson still running 9th. Looks like that lap not going to count for him.
And here comes Carter Kundinger coming out. This is going to be a slow lap for him as well. It looks like right behind him, that is the 199 of Kanchin. Let's see what he's able to do as well. He's going to cross over the line. Barely able to improve by about 6 thousandths of a second. Joshua Wolf now, that is an out lap for Joshua, I think.
It doesn't take him up any positions, unfortunately. Looks like Bob the Blade on an out lap as well. That takes us to Luke Carbonneau in the 492. A 1:12.249 is his best lap as he accelerates towards the start-finish line. A 1:12 flat, and that will not... Whoa, wow. Things... Man, drivers are making great improvements and yet still not gaining positions. He stays on the outside of the second row, and David Williams is not going to be able to come out and try and challenge for the pole as he has come to a halt on the track.
Throwing in the towel there. I think he knew just coming out of the hairpin that he didn't have it. Now we ride on board with Carter Kundinger. He's currently in 5th in that 02 machine. One last tricky corner for him to go. There you see the full lock on the steering wheel. Brings it on wide. Good line there out of the quarter from Carter. Let's see what he's got down the main straight.
A 1:12.3 is his fastest. A 1:12 flat. That will put him into 4th, past Luke Carbonneau. Wolf is next. Another lap that did not count to get one more try, as we've only got about a few seconds left. And I think Tinsley will be able to start this just barely. And he improves to a 1:12.7. but he's still about 100th off of Wilson.
Just absolutely incredibly tight field here. Carter Kundinger, or Luke Carpenter rather, saying that is enough for me. He's going to dive on into the pits. That very tricky pit entry that Cy talked about in that intro. Here comes Leif Peterson. He's not going to be able to improve on this lap.
Yeah, that's a slow one for him. De Vries comes to a halt, but he's already got the pole. Carter Kundinger is still running. Is he up to speed, though? It almost looked like he was a little bit off pace there down the backstretch. But yeah, it looks like he is flying around. Who else do we have out there? I think Kanchan behind him. And Wolf still has one last shot to see if he can jump either Williams or De Vries. Very close to the wall out of the exit of the hairpin for Carter Kundinger. He's got to improve on a 112 flat, and he does. It's an 11.905. That's pole for Kundinger. Wolf now to the line. Can he one-up him? No. Kundinger with a surprise pole at the very end of the session.
Oh my goodness gracious, what a lap for Carter Kundinger. That is an amazing exclamation point to one of the closest qualifying sessions we have had thus far in this Autobahn series, Joe.
That's going to be it as Tinsey crosses the line while we wait for the last seconds to tick down in our qualifying. Cy, I also know you've been talking to your team quite a bit about the driver interactions, or the class interactions rather. Anything in particular you feel like we need to watch out for?
Well, despite the prototypes being lighter, having more downforce, more power and all that, they will actually be slower than the GTs out of some of these slow speed corners, especially through, say, the hairpin for one, and some of the corners in the first sector through the fountain especially. They can be run over by GT cars if they're not being careful. Also, their steering racks aren't very wide. They can't really yank the car around. So if you see P2 trying to make passing maneuvers into the fountain, I mean, there's a very good chance they're going to end up stranded on the outside wall there. Kind of like what we saw those the GTLM cars do here in IMSA a few years ago.
Now, let's hope we don't get a repeat of that as we now head through the qualifying order. Carter Kundinger on the pole with Jason De Vries starting second. It'll be David Williams behind his championship rival in third. Josh Wolf starts fourth, still looking for a victory this season. Luke Carbonell is P5, and it's Robert Kanchan in sixth. Inside of the next row, Mark Wilson flanked by Robert Tinsey. Only 9 prototypes today, with Leif Peterson rounding out that field.
In first in that GTE category is going to be Stephen Jeffrey, hoping to capitalize on his 2 successive second-place finishes. Behind him will be Young Park, Mo Islam, and Paul Darling, rounding out those first 2 rows. Ross Booth is going to line up there behind him in fifth. That's one of your title hopefuls, with Christopher Pies and Marc-Antoine Thibault behind him. Kevin Binkley is going to be starting off 8th. That's the other championship rival to keep an eye on, with Paul Slavonic, Paul Lindsay, Jerry Mueller, and Sheldon Rosenbaum rounding out your GTE field.
And back in the GTAMs, a little name change for the guy on pole, from Ryan Wash to Ryan Wash-Leski, followed by Eric Gaudreau-Drapeau on the front row. Row number 2 is Luke Schmidt and Joey Atterbury, followed by David Perry and Ryan Robertson. Then Joe Stiefel and Mark Kidrowski. Chris Sherburne and Matt Owens wrap up the 5th row. And back on row number 6 by his own lonesome is the 250 of Dale Green.
The only driver that is able to clinch the championship tonight is Ryan Wash, and appropriately, we might get to see what his reaction will be because we have an onboard cam with him. Let's take a look at that before we get rolling here today. As we pull him up here in a second, the pace car taking off, only a short pace lap. There's Wash's onboard cam. Still hasn't even put his hands on the wheels because they wait and do a staggered start. So he'll be on there in a second, I'm sure. Meanwhile, already our pace car is around the hairpin. What about everybody else? Are they going to be able to get out of there okay? Carter Kundinger with the pole. You can see them trying to grid up behind him, but the green flag is already out. And they stretch out. Kundinger is on the throttle as the green flag waves. De Vries, though, gets a great tow. He could try and challenge for the lead as they come into turn 1. And De Vries is deep on the brakes into there. Another car deep in the brakes and a spin from our championship leader. Williams is around. Let's go to the GT Pros.
In the GT Pros, Jeffrey off to a very good start, but that is Darling coming up the outside of him, or not outside Darling, excuse me, that's Islam all the way up to the outside. Good move around Young Park, tries to hold it. Big check up there, almost gets into Paul Darling. Everybody through that first corner, okay at this point.
Contact out of the hairpin between your two front runners, Waszlewski and Gadrodra-Poe. Not too much damage, it seems, as it was on the front left of Washer's car that took the brunt of the impact. The only move so far is going to be side-by-side turn number 1. It's Atterbury getting around Perry.
Wow, so what a development in our prototypes as we watch the GT AMs now come around and out of the fountain section. So far, so good. Looks like everybody else did manage to get through without us having a track blockage, which is a huge relief. And Jason De Vries managed to take the lead away from Carter Kundinger as they fly back down into the first corner. I think we've got time now. I'm not seeing any major dramas behind. Can we take a look at the replay on that start? Both because of the spin that we had for Williams, who sent him to the back, and also that pass from De Vries. That was phenomenal.
It was indeed, Joe, and here we go, spooling up that replay. So there it is, De Vries being very heads up, diving into the draft there and just holding it on as much as he can behind Carter Kundinger. Just a classic draft pass. Kundinger going defensive. De Vries to the outside, later on the brakes and sweeps around, and then here is that spin. That's Williams just carrying a little bit too much speed there into that corner. I think he was trying to get up and around Carbonneau there and just was a little over ambitious in what he thought that prototype could do.
If we go up to De Vries there in this replay, they stayed side. Look at that, side by side for the lead through the fountain, and eventually it worked itself out. But not often that you see that sort of fighting, especially at the very start, go on for multiple corners. And De Vries is taking advantage of it. He's keeping himself about 7/10 ahead of Kundinger.
Is indeed putting in the fastest lap of the race right there. Jason knows what's at stake and is really just trying to pull away as much as possible. Behind him, Carbonneau and Wolf trying to cling on, but this is turning into a bit of a two-horse race up front with Carbonneau about 1.4 seconds behind your two leaders.
Let's go to third in the GTEs with Paul Darling ahead of Young Park. These two had a nice little fight at Hockenheim. Oh, and behind them, it looks like Pies might have a good run on Booth, but he runs out of straightaway. Booth running down in 5th. He has been on an impressive run himself as well. Has not finished off the podium since Road America. But right now, he's got to make up a couple positions if he want to keep that trend up.
Well, if we think back to the last time we saw these cars out on circuit, it was very much the same story for both Booth and Binkley, your two title rivals here. They both qualified a little down in the order and were able to just keep cool heads during the course of the race, and a little bit of damage happened in front of them, and they were both able to move their way up the order as much as possible. So I think that's what Booth is doing here, and crucially, he's 3 spots up on Binkley as of now, so that's going to be his main concern here in this race.
Back to our leaders in the prototypes. Kundinger had a great exit out of the hairpin, but as good as it was, 3/10 behind De Vries, he only gained about a 10th in the slipstream. Just not very long straights around here.
No, there really aren't. Whoa, big wobble there from Carter Kundinger. I think that may have just been a little bit of wheel spin causing the car to get a little bit loose on corner exit. Now gets his way into this little mini straight, and the dip downhill that is so much more of an elevation change than you think it is. Comes back there. See how much of that curve he is jumping over there, Joe. He is really pushing to stay close to De Vries.
We were riding on board when that happened. He was inches from the wall, literally just almost got himself damage very early in this race, so that gives De Vries breathing room. And let's head back to our leader in the GT AMs. Ryan Wash still looking to try and clinch this championship, and as long as he holds this lead, he'll do that.
Yeah, he's just been holding on to lead from the start. Gaudreau Drapeau has caught him just ever so slightly. It was about 1.2 seconds not too long ago, but we've seen a couple of guys have collected the wall. Luke Schmidt, notably, as well as Matt Owens, as well as Joe Steifel, all have collected the wall pretty hard. We're already getting our way through lap traffic here as Kudrowski has been overtaken by the leaders of DeVries and Pundinger.
Ooh, let's head off to that then, because this is where it's going to get interesting as they weave their way past the car of Matt Owens. Now they've got a few more up in front after a brief respite. And then things will start to get really thick. Ooh, a little bit of a look around the outside as DeVries has to defend off of Pine Avenue down the backstretch. Dale Green going to stay off to the side. This is the closest we've seen Kundinger. Almost looked a little hesitant there into the corner.
Well, he was offline there, and I think he may have had a shot to look for a pass were it not for Dale Green. Now ahead of them, this is Sherburne. They're trying to get around him. Oh, that opens up the line. There's a big stack up, and Kundinger into the lead.
That's Robertson and Schmidt. Oh, and there's causing a huge backup. There's a bunch of cars that are absolutely stopped at the hairpin. Kudrowski amongst them. A few of the prototypes, I think, involved. I want to say Leif Peterson was one of them. So this is what first starts it off. Oh, and you can see just how awkward it is. The 210 of Robertson really checked up, and then, yeah, cars, unfortunately, going so slow caused them all to get backed up, and eventually contact happened.
Indeed it did, but we're going to jump back up to the lead here, Joe. DeVries was able to get a good slipstream around Carter Kundinger. That run he had out of the hairpin, while it may have gotten him in front, it compromised his top speed down the front stretch. So now Kundinger back into that chasing position. Now that is David Perry just up the road from them, another one of those GTD competitors.
So is this going to be another hassle in amongst them? They've recently overtaken our GTM leaders, so they're now through that field. Or no, actually, excuse me, they're just behind them right now, it looks like, as they're coming up behind them. The reason that might be significant is Joey Atterbury is close behind Drapeau for second place. Remember, Joey is the only one that can stop Wasilewski from taking this championship. He's got to take more points than Ryan.
And that's an interesting battle on track between Gaudreau Drapeau and Atterbury, because through the hairpin and through the slower corners, Atterbury gains so much time and so much space. He's so much faster through the slow corners, but it's something in the setup that Gaudreau Drapeau just gets an incredible launch off the corner and just pulls away down the long straightaways.
And already the leaders are starting to come up. And this is where it's going to be awkward, possibly checking up DeVries. It did. It'll give a shot to Kundinger, but he might have to go 3 wide for it as the GT Am car tries to stay off to the side. Kundinger, almost loses the car, has to try and snap it back.
And he thought about going 3 wide there as well. An interesting spot for you to catch slower traffic.
Very much so. And Joe, that's the second time we've seen a little bit of aggressive moves on the curb, causing Kundinger's car to get a little bit squirrely. So something to keep an eye out for.
Got a lot of cars together here in the GT Pros, being led by Thibault. Actually, you could almost say it's being led by Young Park here in 4th, ahead of Booth, Pies, and Mitchell Marc-Antoine. Binkley is in there. Binkley way far down, along with Paul Lindsay back in the GT Pro class once again. And Slavonic is even in this group.
Indeed they are. There you see a wider line there from Ross Booth. I get the sense that he's a little bit frustrated here, maybe a little bit held up from Young Park, able to get a really good line there out of the hairpin. But that Porsche, pretty good in a straight line. Look at it pull away there down the straight. Booth just not able to close.
Yeah, this is not going to be conducive to an attempt down to the first corner for sure amongst those drivers. Oh, but a little deep into the corner from Young Park, despite the error. Booth can't take advantage of it. Everybody checks up behind the green and black Porsche. Pies now right underneath the rear wing of the 03. It's going to take some major mistakes from the cars ahead for anybody to really make something stick.
Very much is, Joe, with the walls as narrow as they are here. You've got to be very, very brave to go late onto the brakes. And especially watching the characteristics of these cars right now, I've got to think if I'm Ross Booth, I've got to throw a little bit of a surprise move. Maybe through that section that they just went through, an area where you normally don't see a lot of overtaking. That's going to be how he's got to try to get by Young Park with that top line speed that Porsche seems to have.
It's an absolute train running all the way from 4th down to the 10th position. So frankly, the majority of the GT Pro field, and that's not an exaggeration, that's most of the cars in this field running together right now.
Yeah, very much so. Paul Darling about a second up the road from them, and then Stefan Jeffrey and Mo Islam about a second and 4 seconds respectively up the road from that. So really, really separating out here. Looks like, again, that Corvette just doesn't look like it quite has the same top line speed as the Porsches, as you saw there on the straightaway. Booth coming under real fire from Pies.
Let's keep the cameras here, but it sounds like we've already had an early DNF. Cy, who's visited you?
Unfortunately, it was a casualty of that incident we saw at the hairpin. Luke Schmidt has pulled into the pits. He's been there for about 3 minutes and then decided to call it a day. Car had too much damage. That Lamborghini definitely took a beating there. I think was hit by at least one P2 and maybe another GTE. So unfortunate, but Long Beach is claimed its first victim tonight.
So that leaves us with 30 cars instead out running. Along down the back stretch, Young Park just out of reach from Ross Booth, who at least the one thing going for him is that he's ahead of the man that he's tied with here, DJ, that Binkley's behind him, but I'm sure he'd like to be able to get away and get a few more points than a 5th place.
Oh, most certainly. And the times we've talked to Ross, you know, he has told us that, yeah, the championship is in his head, but at the same time, he still has that just racer's attitude where he wants to get to the front and wants to win. And just seeing Park start to separate him out from a little bit, it's just got to be so frustrating for the driver of the 03.
And, of course, Binkley only has to pass 2 cars to get up to the back of Booth here, so he can't dilly-dally. If Binkley does have pace and is able to start overtaking, he could certainly manage to get ahead of him and make the championship lead his. As we now look at our leader, Stefan Jeffrey. Interesting stats for him. He's had 3 second places, and those are all 3 of his podiums so far this season, but never has been on the top spot.
Yeah, he has very much been on a consistent run here and saying that, you know, I think it's going to come to me. It's just a matter of time, and looks pretty good here, but we still have about 45 minutes left to go in this race, Joe.
Josh Wolf wow, David Williams, we haven't really followed his progress through the field, but he's been doing a great job with this, up to 5th already and looking at a 4th place. Josh Wolf sees a big red number 01 in his mirrors. Can he withstand the pressure, and does he even have the speed to hold him back? We've already seen, DJ, that it's extremely tough to pass here today.
Yeah, it really is, and it's just not, the line like that out of the hairpin not going to be helping Williams there at all. A little bit too narrow, and it just couldn't exactly carry momentum through the corner. You can see him starting to close a little bit through the draft, but these straightaways are so short here that you really can't do it. Oh, he's going to think about it. No, just a little bit of a look there from Williams.
And Cy, it sounds like you've been able to keep an eye on the monitors and seen what Williams has been up to. What sort of adventures has he had?
Well, I think as you've been seeing in sort of the corner of your screen, he's been setting fast lap after fast lap. He has been absolutely hunting these guys at the front down. He had that early spin, but he only lost about 10, 12 seconds there. And the gap now is still 10 seconds. So even though he's getting through the field, he's passed Leif Peterson, Mark Wilson, Robert Kanstrom, and Robert Tinsey. He has maintained the gap to the leaders. So if he can get clean air, I think he's a real danger.
As he goes way wide around the traffic off of Pine Avenue, though. And that loses him some time on Josh Wolf. Brave move from both of them in that situation. That paid dividends for the 12. Look at the gap that he has pulled just in that one maneuver.
Yeah, he's certainly coming up behind here, very close. Let's see if he can get a better run out of that hairpin. Both similar lines there, and now it's just that drag race down the front stretch.
And speaking of the front stretch, there's very little of it between DeVries and that train of GT Pro cars that we had been watching earlier. I think he's going to be catching them at some point this lap. There he is right now, already on the back of them. That's Slavonic in 10th, right in front of him.
Yeah, and this is that big train going to dive down to the inside here of the Tecate turn. That's good space there given all the way around. So that's his first one through. And crucially here, he has been able to gap Carter Cundinger ever so slightly. But now with this traffic, it's now pounce time for Carter Cundinger. Let's see what he can do.
And sounds like we've had a major development in our GT AM Championship. Chad, what's happened with Atterbury?
Atterbury tried to go around the outside of Gaudreau-Drapeau into turn number 1, was side by side into the fountain, and there was just some contact that sent Atterbury around. See if we can't get a look at it on the replay here. It was back before this. It was in the fountain section. Yeah, Atterbury just went around the outside in turn number 1, almost had it clear, and yes, it's going to be right here. You'll see him coming across the start-finish line, going to make the move under braking here just momentarily. That red and black car going to peek to the outside. To the inside, actually. He crossed him over. And then just slid the back end out. You'll see a little bit of contact here once they get into the fountain section.
Oh, no. That looked like a little bit of netcode, too. I don't know if they actually touched, but you could almost say that was inevitable trying to go through there too wide. And look at how much of a headache it causes, not just for him, but anybody approaching. So Atterbury, as you mentioned, down to 4th and a long ways back from Wash.
Yeah, Gaudreau-Drapeau lost 6 seconds to Wash from the incident as well. David Perry picked up the spot, the 3rd. Atterbury down to 4th and about 3 seconds behind that final step of the podium.
Wow, things are actually getting a little wild for that battle for the overall lead, because DeVries is not only lapping our GT Pro Class cars, but our GT AMs, and it's an absolute traffic jam coming out of the hairpin. Just cars nose to bumper through there. And oh, this is getting dicey. Everybody's making their own moves. Not everybody could be paying attention. That is Young Park trying to lap Joe Stifle. Thankfully, I think everybody's been heads up enough. It looks like they're through safe.
Yeah, they are one bit of non-heads up. Paul Slavonic getting a little bit turned around out of the hairpin, but this battle up ahead continues to be close. There you see them all going by. Young Park able to get a little bit of a gap now over Ross Booth with that Lamborghini there in the mix, slowing down Booth as we speak.
Wow. We kind of expected this to be craziness, but everything is blowing up now. And we're just about a quarter of the way through the race. Actually, almost a third already onto the backstretch. Young Park has been doing a phenomenal job holding back all of those behind him. And the traffic helped some with 2 seconds between himself and Booth now. They're going to have more of it coming through. Looks like they've got Luke Carbonneau, who's quietly moved his way into the podium today and is trying to continue to stay out of trouble and keep the cameras off him as he weaves his way past some of our GT pros.
And sometimes that is the best strategy to get a win here or get a podium at Long Beach, is just try to keep your nose clean. Look at that closing speed as he flies on by. I believe that's Ross Booth for 5th place in that GTE category.
Once again, it is just all jam-packed and a little bit of contact. So I think one of the GT cars got into Carbonneau.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of just that little sort of, let's call it micro contact, ever so slightly, a little bit of a bump here and there. Most of the drivers been able to cover it. Ooh, big crossover there from Carbonneau diving to the inside of that GTE, just trying to keep ahead. That is Williams starting to close him down.
Something we talked about in the pre-race with the multi-class, with this hairpin, and just the breaking points of the different classes. Contact a couple of times that we've seen through multiple different classes, just stacking each other up. And when you have a long line like we have coming into the hairpin now, I mean, wow, what spectacular racing, and this concentration these guys have to not just pit maneuver each other every single time through that section.
Can we get a replay on board? Josh Wolf was having a heck of a time down the back straight of all places and had to kind of slalom his way through. Oh, we've had
Huge
contact.
trouble in turn number 1.
Yeah, sorry. I know we just went to replay, but Kundinger had contact with one of our GT cars.
There were two G, one a pro and one an AM, all involved in that contact.
And that was Jeffrey. That was our pole sitter, Stefan Jeffrey, who made major contact with him.
Oh my goodness gracious. Here, we're going to check out this move from Carter Kundinger. Now that green, that lime car, that is Jeffrey up ahead. So that's a 3-class schmozzle going on right there. You see Kundinger diving to the inside, trying to get around, slides back into position. Oh my goodness. Was that Atterbury that got into him?
I believe it was, yes.
Oh no. We're going to watch one more time here. So let's watch from onboard Atterbury. That'll give us a good idea if he really made contact here. Here we go. And that Corvette could easily out-drag him down the straight. He's just kind of minding his own business. I wonder if he just got caught out, maybe was unsighted, or is there something else?
Well, let's see. As a GTD driver, it's got to be a little bit terrifying. There you see comes across.
Oh.
Just the difference in the times that you have to brake for that corner.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, yeah, you brake so much later, it seems like, in the GTMs. That
We've got to jump back to the lead for the GTEs, guys, as Paul Darling just put a beautiful move as Jeffrey and Islam all around it. This battle up top in the GTEs, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that involved Atterbury yet again. He was to the outside, and they had a lapping LMP2 car. Let's take a look at this one.
This is just ultimate spatial awareness from Paul Darling, trying to get a good dive down the inside. I thought for sure this was going to end in tears. A little bit of a squeeze there from Islam on Atterbury. You see the dive down the inside. Very good heads up all the way around. Absolutely incredible damage avoidance from all of those drivers. And the checkup again through the fountain section there for Atterbury. Oh my goodness gracious.
How about Mo Islam as well, from third on the grid to now leading this race, but it's not by a huge margin. That's Darling that you see directly behind in the red and black Corvette. And David Williams now leaves those behind. He's gotten up to fourth. Atterbury is starting to get heated over the radio. He is unhappy with the likes of Jeffrey. And I was about to make mention on that as we were taking a look. I noticed that it did look like Jeffrey kind of weaved in front of him at the last second. I think maybe that's what's got him all incensed.
He just made the same move come down the front straightaway once again. Actually, I'm just looking at the replay, actually. But yeah, every time down the front straightaway, he makes that same move, cutting him off. And it's just incredible watching.
Oh, Bob the Blade is taken to the escape road in turn 1. Shoreline Drive just got extended for the 82. And this was probably the smartest thing he could do, frankly, but it'll lose him a ton of time.
Yeah, you can see he got a little bit of an excess speed there coming off of the draft of that GTD Ferrari and just cooked the brakes a little bit coming in. Went straight ahead. Very smart of him to take that little excess around there and get himself back on the way. He is in 9th in that last place in that LMP2 category.
We're almost to halfway. Who will we see of our prototypes duck in first? We're taking a look at Islam. Oh, and Darling has closed this down. It's to 0.3 of a second. It was a second just a couple laps ago. As he takes a peek down the inside, he then comes back to the racing line, thinks better of it, and they've got about 2.2 seconds over Stefan Jeffrey with that incident that the 9 had. He's not out of it, but he's certainly not on top of them.
No, he's not, but with the speed we saw from Stefan earlier in the race, plus just all of the absolute ridiculousness you can see in this multi-class style of racing around a street circuit, do not be surprised if Jeffrey's able to close this back up pretty quickly. And that is Young Park only about a second behind him as well, as he gets himself around David Perry there in that GTD Lamborghini.
Yeah, Young Park is still out of reach of those behind him as well. Ross Booth about a second behind him. This is from on board Park in the number 5, just putting some traffic between himself and 5th place. We were talking about David Perry there before in the Lambo, sitting in third. Another one that we really haven't had time to focus on, but a great job from the 595 to get himself on the podium.
You continue to watch them going down this twisting straightaway. There you can see a little bit of extra closing distance, I think, from that Porsche. Still kind of judging off of R as something that the Porsche's got a little bit better top line speed here. Now diving it down into the fountain section. Let's stay on board. You can see just how close the margins are. They are within millimeters of those outside walls.
I think we got our first visitor officially down with Cy Andrea. Is that Robert Canchin coming up to you?
That is correct, and unfortunately, it looks like he has a lot of damage on the front of his car, looking back to see what exactly happened. But I think he might be a victim of those Long Beach walls again. Perhaps down into Pine Avenue, it looks like, and he looks like, yeah, it just looks he clipped the inside wall and sent him straight into the outside one.
So we turn our attention. Oh, and Park just got by Jeffrey. So Jeffrey's lost the podium positions. I think he may have caught the outside of Pine Avenue as well. And yeah, that was a pretty big hit.
Yeah, really was some major damage there. You can see it kind of displaced that rear of the car ever so slightly. So now Jeffrey going to be struggling a little bit more. Yeah, the wing is definitely crumpled as well. So some pretty heavy damage to that Corvette, it looks like.
Gone from bad to worse for what looked like a good shot for him to maybe get that maiden victory. Actually hasn't had any wins at all in his Autobahn history. Oh, in contact both with the DP in front and the one behind. Everybody's able to keep going.
Well, in that one, Joe, I'm actually not going to put on Jeffrey. That was Leif Peterson up ahead of him that caught into that tire barrier. That checked up Jeffrey ever so slightly, and that was really just avoiding maneuver. Ooh, but he gets a little hit in the back there from Ross Booth. Ross wants forward.
Yeah, Ross sees a chance to finally make up some spots after he couldn't get by Young Park, and he is eager to try and make this stick. He's got to watch out, though, because Christopher Pies and Marc-Antoine Thibault are right there behind him. There was a little bit of look from the Bimmer as Marc-Antoine thought about something on Christopher. Didn't quite work out. Let's see who's got the better exit off the hairpin.
I've got to think Jeffrey's going to get a little bit swamped here with that rear wing damage, but he gets a pretty good jump off of the line. But here comes everybody else. No, that Jeffrey's still able to keep going in pretty good speed down the straight.
And Booth doesn't look like he has the best of speed, though, because Pies was gaining on him hand over fist, but just ran out of straightaway. In the meantime, it sounds like we've got another one of our major players in the GTMs on pit lane. Cy?
Yeah, it looks like a scheduled stop for Ryan Robertson here. I don't know if it's because he wanted to come in early just to get this pit stop out of the way, or if he saw a bunch of traffic coming up behind him and didn't want to have another incident. Looks like the former, but he is one of the first people in the field to come in, and I see Dale Green and the AMs coming into pit lane as well.
All right, so now it's beginning to kick off. Expecting a few of these drivers maybe trying to either get out of the craziness or just getting some repair done. And already Dale Green is out. Taking a glance at Stephen Jeffrey, keeping Ross Booth just behind him. Ross in the 03 that we look back from the front fender of Stephen Jeffrey. Now we've hopped on the roof of Ross Booth. Just can't get the exit, it looks like.
Yeah, he's really, really struggling off of that hairpin, Joe. He had a little bit of look to the inside on Seaside Way going down into that right-hander, but decided better of it. He's got some good closing speed here, decides not to go for it. That's going to be Dale Green to their outside. Dale stays out of the way, but he's got to be careful. Christopher Pies now right up the tailpipe of Booth as well, so if he fights too hard with Jeffrey here, he can end up losing a position.
And this has all been great for Park, who is a distant 5 seconds ahead of this group. And after Booth was right on his tailpipe for so long, this has got to be a little bit frustrating. Ooh, is he taking a look? It's a very wide line coming onto Pine Avenue. It doesn't really gain him anything, doesn't lose him much either. Back onto Seaside, and they all get spread apart exactly halfway now, and we've only seen a small handful of drivers come down pit lane. Looks like many are going to try and go long.
Yeah, the battle between Chris Sherburne and Joe Stiefel has been heating up for a couple of laps now, and it's very fun to watch these guys because as soon as Joe Stiefel lets a faster class and LMP car go by, it seems like Sherburne just can't take advantage of it and use the interruption to his advantage. So it's going to open the gap up just a little bit for Sherburne, and Stiefel closes it right back down. But he just cannot find a way to get by.
And Booth finally got the pass done down into turn 1, past Stephen Jeffrey, set himself up perfectly off the hairpin, and then did it the long way around. Let's take a look at it.
And Joe, this was set up by the fact that Jeffrey locked up big time coming into the hairpin. There you can see Booth committing to that outside lane, holding off. Pies behind him, just sweeps around the outside, pinches Jeffrey down onto that narrow line. Jeffrey, for his part, doing a very good job to drive just so ever defensively there to keep Pies behind him as well.
All right, that is finally freed up Booth. Can he stretch away and attempt to chase down our podium sitter, Young Park? Oh, and Mo Islam is in. Our leader pits. This is unexpectedly early for the GT Pros. And Sai, I think he's getting close to you.
Absolutely. We're just past halfway, coming up to 28 minutes left on this race, and I think Mo Islam is doing the undercut here. He is trying to get out ahead and maybe use a little bit of that gap in traffic he's looking for. Maybe a spotter found a gap. I don't know. I'm certainly not seeing any gaps in traffic around here, but if he times this right, this could be a huge advantage for him.
Yeah, Paul Darling now takes back the lead, or takes over the lead for the first time, I think. Don't think we've seen that 155 on the point yet today. In the meantime, our former leader returns to the track. Is he in clear air? I think he is. He does have David Williams. Oh, Williams is going to have a little bit of a compromised line, but that won't hurt Islam.
No, it won't. Sai, you hit the nail on the head there. I think that was absolutely brilliant strategy, finding a gap in the track for Mo Islam, and now he's got some freed air to just run some hot laps while everybody else is going to be stuck in traffic.
Paul Slavonic has finished his stop. He comes back out onto the track. And Darling responds. So the 155 has decided he's not going to wait. He's going to do exactly as he sees. And will that allow him to stay close to Islam?
Islam had about 11-second stop, so let's see if the Corvette is any more efficient than the BMW. Coming up to 7 seconds now, and I think he's getting ready to go. Oh my god, only an 8.8-second stop. He could jump Mo Islam with this pit stop here. Got to keep an eye on the pit exit. Remember, he cannot cut across the apex of turn 1, so if Mo can hold it up on the inside, he might be able to do this.
Darling has to go the long way down to those cones and finally gets past them. Islam is around the long sweeping front stretch on Shoreline Drive, and Darling is through by a few seconds.
Yeah, he is, and crucially, that puts him directly in front of that GTD BMW behind him, so he's got a little bit of clear track to be running on, too, to put in some hot laps of his own.
But the real question is, how much did Paul Darling underfuel, or did Mo Islam overfuel? Got to keep an eye on that coming to the end of the race.
Will we see any of the other GT Pro drivers elect to come in? Park's not going to. Booth is going to stay out. Jeffrey as well. But Paul Lindsay, whoa, oh my goodness, oh no! And we had a crazy accident with Kevin Binkley, one of our championship contenders. How in the we need a replay of the pit entry for the 75. I've never seen this in my life. He had the hottest entry in there I've ever seen, smoked it in, but then somehow lost control and put it into an escape road and went back out on the track. Here it is right here.
Yeah, there you see, just like that, and has to park it because I believe the way the system works is if he were to reverse at that point, he could get hit for an unsafe entry. So had to take a tow. Did Kevin Binkley. There he is sitting in pit lane. That is the man who was tied for the lead of that GT Pro category. That is absolutely disastrous.
I've seen all kinds of incidents coming into that pit lane since it's so odd. I've never seen that before, real life or here in the sim. We're back to Young Park, still leading the way. Does he try and come on in this time? No, he's going to continue on around. Oh, as that was a bit of an awkward exit. Whoever was there with Ross Booth, I think that was Matt Owens nearly hitting the side of him.
Yeah, these GT Pro cars have to be a little bit careful coming through there as Park now navigates his way through the corner. And Joe, we've got a pitter in the LMP2s. That's second place Carter Kundinger coming down pit lane.
Okay, so Kundinger, I think, yeah, he is the first one to actually take a scheduled stop since Kanchan actually did take a DNF today. He has exited the race. So Kundinger is the first to blink. This will promote Williams into the podium, at least temporarily, who has continued to try and chase him down. De Vries has been running a great race now that he has been able to get up to the front. There is Williams on your screen now. And there's De Vries. Now, this will help him out. It's not going to give him a huge amount of points over David Williams, but it will at least close him back in, which he so desperately needed this race.
Yeah, most certainly. So now he is just focused on trying to keep everything clean. A lot easier said than done, though, around here, the streets of Long Beach.
Kundinger returns in 7th. The two VRS cars off of the hairpin. Neither of them deciding to pit this time, though. Oh, and our leader from the GT AMs is in.
And very slow down pit road was Ryan Wash. And he seems to find his pit box okay. Maybe just some trouble spotting it down the very congested pit road. But I think this is going to be the start of scheduled pit stops here for everybody here in GTM.
He went as long as he could, I believe, as far as I know anyway. And he had a slightly shorter stop rather than Ryan Robertson and Dale Green, the only other two cars we've had come down pit lane in this class. So he's been doing some fuel saving up there.
And joining him was David Williams. So David now pits as the recovery drive for him has probably been going at least a little better than expected from our perspective. Back onto the track for another one of our VRS drivers. Williams also in the 01 hits the cones and is on his way. Kundinger is past though, so he's going to have to overtake on the track.
And Wash had about a 10-second gap back to Gaudreau Drapeau when he came in. The interesting thing that I saw from his pit exit is he might have missed getting off the pit limiter. He was well past the green cone to say, hey, you can go full speed at this point. Missed the pit limiter, pit exit cone, and thankfully looks like he got away scot-free, and he's got some clean track in front of him.
Another driver to take the escape road at Shoreline Drive was Paul Slavonic. He gets it going. Don't really need a replay on him. He's been having not the greatest of days. He's running 10th on the field. Let's take a look at the battle for second, or what is currently second. Oh, and Atterbury's in just as he catches up to Perry. I suspect this is a move to try and get him to jump the 5.95 on strategy.
Yeah, he's been running faster laps the last couple times around Atterbury. Of course, we saw him in that contact earlier on in the race with Gaudreau Drapeau. So at this point, I think he just needs to do whatever he can to try to salvage as many points as we talked about. This GT3 championship might be over by the time that we take the checker today.
Yeah, Wash has been leading pretty comfortably. And Atterbury's nowhere near him coming out. In fact, this looks like maybe half a lap difference or so, if I'm seeing correctly. Here's Wash still running. Atterbury is back onto the track officially in 7th compared to Wash, who is in 3rd right now. Now, they're going to get some of the spots back once the rest of those around them cycle through their pit stops. But since Atterbury is the only one mathematically able to keep Wash honest, it's not looking good. It's going to have to take a dramatic DNF for Wash to lose points to anybody at this point.
Yeah, with 20 minutes remaining, multi-class here at the concrete jungle of Long Beach. I mean, anything can still happen. There's still a lot of racing left to go.
Very true. Looks like Leif Peterson pits. And he's going to hand over spots to Kundinger. And will he actually lose out to Wilson? Oh, let's go over to the battle for fifth. Sherburne is suddenly under a lot of pressure of a very damaged Mark Kudrowski.
Yeah, these guys have been battling. Well, Sherburne was battling with Stifle earlier on in the race. But Sherburne, I think he might have had contact with the wall.
Was there ghost contact there? He was getting close. Yeah, I think there was. We'll take a glance at it. This was just kind of unfortunate. He shouldn't have made contact. It was close racing. But Sherburne just got on the radio saying that he might be done here.
With some very colorful language, that this car is broken, and it's unfortunate to see. Oh, that car just spun around. That was not a great place. The walls are so tight here at Long Beach and just about any street course that, that's not pleasant to see.
Oh, we've had a race on pit road here, Cy. Multiple of our LMP2s are in.
Yep, we've hit the limit on how long they can go, and I think Luke Carbonneau, Joshua Wolf, and I think one other person has come down pit road. Now we got to keep an eye out and see if David Williams is able to make any more inroads on these guys, and look where he comes out relative to Carter Kundinger. I think Luke almost beat Carter Kundinger out. I think he has. He did, Carter Kundinger out.
Luke is out ahead, and they are right together. There they are on screen, separated by less than half a second. Luke Carbonneau looking at another podium. I'll have to double check my stats here. I think this might be only his fourth ever in the series, potentially. Big slide, though, coming up and around turn 6 there for Kundinger.
Oh, and that's going to put him really out of sorts trying to get around David Perry there. Compromised his way onto Seaside Way. Really had to check up, and you can see the gap that Carbonneau was able to pull there going down Seaside before they make their way through the right-handed Firestone turn.
Yeah, only 4 podiums in the history of Luke Carbonneau's Autobahn career. This would be number 5, the way things are looking, and a second place at that.
And by the way, just an update on that contact we saw a moment ago. Both Stifle and Sherburne came down pit road. Stifle 15 seconds on his stop. Looks like maybe a couple seconds of optional repairs that he took. Sherburne still sitting in his stall waiting to get back underway.
That moment for Kundinger did not work out in his favor. 2 seconds between himself and Carbonneau. A lot of ground to make up and only 17 minutes to do so. We've been keeping an eye on Williams. Is he still quicker than Carter here? Let me double check, because he's been looking to try and chase him.
He is, Joe. He is about 0.8 of a second faster, but we've got a pitter in the GTEs.
That is Young Park coming in from the podium, which leaves Ross Booth out to take the lead. Now we got to watch Young Park as he comes out, because he was battling Paul Darling when he decided to pit and pass, I believe, Mo Islam. So we got to watch and see how long this pit lane is going to be. Longer stop for Young Park. Very long stop, almost 12 seconds longer than Mo Islam. So I think Paul Darling might be able to jump him here. Got to keep an eye on this.
Darling's going by right about now. Yeah, Park is still on his pit limiter.
Eric Gaudreau pits from the lead in the GTM category. The only car not to pit yet is Mark Kudrowski. I would expect to see him down pit road at any time now. Looks like it's going to be very close on his pit exit. Gaudreau versus Ryan Wash. Wash had 0.8 of a second faster stop when he came down pit road.
Still got a small handful of drivers yet to pit. This is Gaudreau looking for his stall. His teammate Kudrowski has not been in yet. Oh, and traffic must have paid Kundinger back, because he's now suddenly all over the back of the 492.
is indeed had a good look there. Ooh, little tag of the wall there maybe for Carter Cunningham coming onto Seaside Way, but able to keep everything nice and together. But these guys do have to be careful because that hard charging number 01 of David Williams is only about 2.8 seconds behind them. If these guys keep scrapping, Williams will be on them in no time.
Our two leaders in the GT Pros have pitted now. Looks like Booth and Jeffrey are in. This will hand the lead back to Paul Darling. Where did Paul start in this race, actually? I want to say fourth, yeah. Wow, what a race this has been. And he was well far down the order for a while. So he's sort of seen everything from the back to the front. And he's hoping it'll finish at the front. And these final 15 minutes, definitely taking a lot of curb, but handling it well. He's got a 5-second gap over Mo Islam. That'll at least keep him from sweating too hard.
And I can report in the meantime that Young Park has beaten Ross Booth out of the pits, and it looks like staying out has sort of bitten Ross Booth here. He has lost several seconds to Young Park, but this is a long race, and we still have about 14 minutes left, so let's see what he can do.
The ebb and flow, a number of our stories have been pretty wild, to say the least, with drivers being up and down the order, losing and gaining spots. There is the comparison between the two of them. Booth definitely quicker by about a second in his pit stall, but it was not enough to jump Park in the end. We haven't talked about him a whole lot, but our overall leader, Jason DeVries, is 11 seconds ahead of Luke Carbonneau. He's pulled about 14 seconds off of David Williams, 4 more since we were looking early before the first half of the race. Some of that could have been traffic more than pace itself, I suspect.
A little bit of column A and a little bit of column B there, Joe, I think, from Jason DeVries. You know, had that very early battle there with Carter Cundinger. Cundinger giving him a lot of hassle, and once he was able to use some traffic to his advantage, has just slowly but surely started pulling away from this field.
And as pits have cycled through in GT, and Ryan Walsh inherits the lead, it's still about the same as what it was at this when the pit cycle came through. Gadrodra Post still about 10 seconds back. Only battle in the podium right now is between Atterbury and Perry, and those guys are very close to one another on track.
Well, Atterbury just got spun in the hairpin. I think this was involved with Robert Tinsey.
Yeah, he just came over the radio and said spent all his time trying to come back and just to get turned again. Just unfortunate to see for him. He's had such great laps on traffic, and just, you have to feel for him. Contact a couple of times that you might question if it was his fault or not.
That one definitely not his fault. That was absolutely, I'd say, Robert Tinsey coming in a little too hot and turning around a slower car. So for Atterbury, he's still running in 4th. I think David Perry managed to pull a decent gap ahead of him after that incident. But I can understand Joey's frustration. He's fighting to keep championship hopes alive, and the longer this race has gone on, the less and less likely that's seemed.
And it looks like there might be damage to his car. He is sliding all over the track, especially coming down this long straightaway here. Coming onto it, the back end was stepping out left and right, and we're coming up to about 10 laps to go. What a fantastic race this has been.
We got to go to Williams. Williams has got a great run off the hairpin. Cundinger doesn't look like he'll be able to do much about it. He'll have the inside into the first corner, but Williams is already passed, goes to cover him off, and from dead last in his class up to 3rd place for David Williams. He's got another 2.7 seconds to Carbonneau. Can he also get him?
And Joe, that was really precipitated by that big stack up we saw in the hairpin. He was caught out by that, had to check up big time, and that's what allowed Williams to close in so fast. I can also tell you that there is some pretty heavy damage to the left side of Carter Kundinger's car. I think he picked that up with one too many brushes onto the wall coming through Seaside Way, and that car clearly suffering in a straight line.
They're going to be given way by Robert Tinsey. He's a lapped car, so he's just letting his fellow class drivers on through. Williams has a little bit of traffic in front of him. That's Binkley and, oh, actually that's Luke Carbonneau right in front of him. So only one car is splitting them. Not the greatest of distances that he has to make up.
No, it's only about 1.9 seconds right now. He's certainly got the bit between his teeth. As you said, Binkley in between them. The next bit of lap traffic is Paul Slavonik, who's about 10 seconds up the road from Luke Carbonneau. So this is going to be a chase, and it's all going to be down to David Williams.
Poor Binkley. Remember his incident in pit lane. He's returned in 10th, and ooh, now he's blinking on top of it. Oh, it was very close between himself and David. So thankfully was able to get by without any contact with him, and even Williams was getting on the radio, letting Binkley know that he was blinking very bad.
Yeah, just saying that was the reason for the little bit of contact. I wasn't sure exactly where he was. As there you can see out of the back, Kundinger and Tinsey both making a little bit of contact with that wall on the entrance to the Seaside Way straightaway. So now Williams dives it down through the Firestone turn. He's got the gap down to about 2.8 seconds. He's only got about 9 minutes to do, though.
We've got a stopped car at the end of Shoreline. Stephen Jeffrey outbraked himself, and he's been stuck there. He hasn't moved. I think he just plowed into the tires, and I'm not sure why he's just sitting now. You can see him on screen now. Okay, now he finally takes a tow. I think he just was unsighted, because he's going to blow in here very, very fast from what I went back and saw in my replay.
Yeah, tries to dive down to the inside, Joe. I think what that was is he dove down to the inside, carried a little bit too much speed, and if you look at the front wheels, he's definitely trying to apply a little bit too much braking force and turning left at the same time. Those front wheels locked and just right into the tire barrier for Stephen Jeffrey.
Paul Darling, you see on screen, leading NRGT Pros now by about 4.2 seconds over Mo Islam. Slightly smaller than what it was after the pit stops, but not enough for him to be that concerned at this stage. I was about to say about Binkley before. Binkley's race really is going to affect the championship pretty badly. In fact, let me see what kind of drop points he has. A 14, which is, I believe, a 4th place. So this is definitely going to be the drop round for Kevin Binkley. It won't hurt him too badly. He'll still get those 14 points. Ross Booth, who interestingly enough is in 4th place, will remain even then if that's the case.
Indeed, as there we see everybody getting on through, focusing on Binkley. A very, very tough race. He is going to have it all to prove for when we head out to Bathurst next time out.
It's not over, but it'll definitely be interesting. Looking at our overall leader, up to 12 seconds now between himself and Carbonneau. Jason DeVries is on his, let's see, this would be the 4th win of the season, it looks like, for him, if he brings this one home. Didn't manage to finish on the podium in Hockenheim after an unfortunate start to the race for him. Very immediately had a wreck and finished well down the order. Before that, he was on quite a streak of podium finishes. He's going to bounce back with an authoritative response.
He is indeed certainly trying to cement his place here. It has been a masterful drive here from Jason DeVries. Still has about 6 minutes to go, though, and he's still got a lot of traffic to clear.
In the oh, something happened to David Williams. Cundinger's passed Williams.
Joe, I just went back and looked at it. This was a while back, actually. What happened was he was going around Paul Slavonic, going out of the fountain section, made a little bit of contact with him, and that completely slowed him up. It allowed for Cundinger to get back by him.
More frustration for the 0-1. So Cundinger gets a little bit of luck his way, and he's back onto the podium once more. Sometimes really it is just about survival at this track, trying to stay out of trouble. Not always the easiest thing. Young Park and Ross Booth. This race started with them close together and battling. It looks like it's going to end with them close together and battling. It was a very bad corner for turn 6 with Ross Booth. Yeah, it took a very awkward line into there, and the 0-3 lost a little time with that one.
Yeah, he certainly did. He's going to be trying to avoid any of those mistakes here going forward. He knows what he's got to do here. Now, his fastest lap, it does look like he's got about a 10.5 over Park if he's able to put in the fastest lap, and was 0.3 faster on that last time out. So he's got the speed. He's just got to push it.
We ride on board, heading down into that first corner. This is with Ross Booth. You can just see flashes of Young Park's black and green Porsche around some of the corners. There he is now, coming around and looking to try and keep that Corvette at arm's length with 4 minutes to go. As long as he doesn't get really bad traffic, pace-wise, it doesn't seem like Ross should be able to close in fast enough.
I don't think he will, Joe, but we have seen time and time again that you never know what can happen here at Long Beach, so I don't want to count any chickens before they are hatched. But Park has driven a very, very good race from here.
Just amazing stuff from a number of our drivers. Park looking at a podium that he missed out on back in Hockenheim with a late race wreck that cost him in the end. This time he's played it quite well. So this is now winding down with the final 3 minutes. Everybody, I think, probably crossing their fingers, trying to play it safe if they don't have a battle, just to get to the end. But this man especially wants to keep that car clean and whole. All he has to do is cruise with a 15-second gap back to Drapeau. It's looking incredibly likely that this is going to be the 86's championship.
Yeah, at under 3 minutes remaining. He has plenty of clean track around him, so he's got the gaps both in front and behind as long as he hits his marks and keeps the car clean. We'll take a look here with our on-car cam. Just look at the composure. Unfortunately, he's wearing a Purdue Boilermakers hoodie, but or shirt. But I you know what? Can't argue with that too much when it provides the results like he's shown all season long.
I'm in the booth with two Hoosiers right now, so I fear for what might go down. Depending on which side they're on. Ooh, definitely pushing the car, though. A little bit of a slide there into turn 5. Chat away with his team there on his radio.
Huge contact out of the hairpin. There are about 4 or 5 cars stacked up just a moment ago.
Christopher Pye's there. Looks like Paul Lindsay involved. How did this happen? Because this was actually after the hairpin. This happened with Pye's getting almost tangled up, it seems, with Paul Lindsay. Oh, and there's, I didn't even see this. Who in the world was on his lid?
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, Joe, so this all starts with a big multi-class checkup here, a couple of GTDs.
Oh! How did he do that? Someone hit the wall. Wish I could figure out who that was that steered in and bank the left side. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that either. We're going to get the white flag this time by for Jason DeVries. And that's the sort of thing that can certainly end a race here.
Most certainly it is the best way to do it, but yeah, as you said, here comes Jason DeVries getting through that hairpin. He's only got to do it one more time, the driver of the 89, as he's going to be taking the white flag as he comes to cross over this curving front straightaway.
Yes, with the drop points also playing a part in this, it's certainly still very much a long shot for Jason DeVries, but this will inject a breath of fresh air into his championship hopes. 23 points is the maximum, and DeVries did not claim the bonus for the pole position here. He started from second. This is Ryan Wash now coming through and will be claiming the championship as far as we can tell at this point. But I think 22 points still are on the table for Jason DeVries as things sit. Does he have the fastest lap? No. David Williams right now has the fastest lap. So 21 points if DeVries had a 0x race out there today.
Yeah, and as we check back here, Paul Darling getting into good run, but we're going to have to check back in on our leader, Joe, because he's coming through the hairpin for the last time.
Jason DeVries, for his 4th win of the season, takes victory at Long Beach, the inaugural race here at the California track. We got a little ways to go for our next car. I think it's going to be Wash who will be the next one through. As Ryan Wash came into the 4 in the latter half of this season, it was an impressive display. He has not finished off the podium since Spa, which he did not attend, and every single podium finish has been a win except for one, which was at Interlagos. As he comes around the hairpin, that kind of performance is netting him a championship with 2 rounds to spare. Ryan Wash is your winner and champion here at Long Beach.
Such an incredible drive the last couple of weeks from him. Ever since Watkins Glen, win, all he does. An incredible performance from Ryan Wash.
And the win for Paul Darling as well. Down to the line, the 155 from 4th to the victory. Just snuck past everyone as they all had problems today. Let's take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Long Beach. For the first time, Autobahn visited here. It gave us pretty much what we expected, which was a lot of action. But you know what? I'd say that was some great racing on the track today. Jason DeVries wound up the winner, even though he didn't take the pole position, and gave a boost to his championship hopes. Luke Carbonneau with his 5th podium of his career, and second today, and Carter Kundinger from pole, a surprise pole, and unfortunately had to settle for 3rd in the end, but still it was a good race for him. Ahead of the man that's probably kicking himself a little bit, David Williams spun on the first lap and fought back, nearly finished on the podium, but was in 4th when all was said and done. Josh Wolf got P5 with Mark Wilson in 6th, and last of our finishers in the prototypes was Robert Tinsley in 7th.
After starting off in 4th, Paul Darling made his way up through the field to take the win here today, with Mo Islam and Young Park rounding out your podium. Ross Booth was able to capitalize during his title rival's tough race to take a 4th place with Marc-Antoine Thibault. Behind him, Christopher Pies finished in 6th, followed by Paul Lindsay in 7th. And as we mentioned, Kevin Binkley having that very strange, disastrous pit stop, finished in 9th.
And Ryan Wash yet again for the 5th week in a row and 7th out of the last 8, taking yet another victory, this time here at Long Beach, followed by Eric Gaudreau-Drapeau and David Perry wrapping up the podium. Joey Atterbury fought back so hard from multiple spins, but finished just shy of that podium in 4th, followed by Kodrowski, Joe Stifel 6th, then Ryan Robertson and Dale Green wrap up the guys that finished on the lead lap here in GTM.
There you see many of our DNFs, unfortunately, but this does take us to our overall winner, Jason DeVries. Jason, you didn't get the pole. A late charge from Carter Kundinger denied you that bonus point, but you took the win over Williams, who wasn't even on the podium. This has to feel like a good rebound after the start of Hockenheim.
Yeah, it was good. I'm just happy I got a chance to race more than half a lap, so it was really good out there.
There was a lot of stuff happening as well. And we heard there was a little bit of hot tempers after the race was over. But overall, to us, it seemed like most of the drivers seemed to manage it quite fine.
It seemed pretty good where I was at. I mean, this is the road course version of Martinsville, so a few people hot afterwards is probably the norm. I had all the voice chat off, so I didn't hear anything. I'll probably see something in the Discord post race about it, but from my perspective, it was pretty well behaved out there, and there's areas that you can't pass, and just gotta stay in line there. Everything except the coming to 2 to go with the mess in the hairpin. That was a little bit crazy, but it was good nonetheless.
Well, with 2 rounds left, one of them being Bathurst, which is always, of course, a little bit of a toss-up on how things are going to wind up there, and the other one being Road Atlanta, you move within, I believe, after today, at least 1 win's worth. So it's not over, but realistically, how do you feel about being able to overtake David by the end of the season?
I think it's really up to him to close it out. From my perspective, there's not a whole lot I can do in terms of out strategizing and whatnot, because if he just runs second, it doesn't really matter what I do. So what I can do is just make sure that I'm getting the max points that I can and not leaving anything on the table. So that means going for the fast lap, trying to keep a 0 incident race, those little things. But there's not really a whole lot I can do to put it in my hands, unless if there's just a major catastrophe at Bathurst going in the road Atlanta.
Well, I think that's a pretty pragmatic view of things. Congratulations on another win. Who do you want to thank for today's victory?
Thanks, Satellite Racing, for putting the team together. This has been a lot of fun this season. I've really enjoyed the group coming together, the camaraderie we've got. GSRC for being with us forever. John Ulmer, Billy Smith, Paul Lindsay, Kevin Santana, Carter Kundinger, the guys behind the scenes, and the guys in the league. It's really cool to be able to have this kind of turnout for this many races, this many seasons. So it's a lot of fun. It makes every other Monday night really enjoyable. Something to look forward to.
We certainly look forward to it as well. That's our winner, Jason DeVries. Up next, DJ has our winner in GT Pro, Paul Darling.
Well, Paul, you started off fourth and just slowly but surely you made your way up through the field. And by the end of the race, you took the checkered. It's a very, very collected drive from you here today. And I got to say, it's got to feel good.
Yeah, that one definitely feels good. I was not happy with my qualifying at all. I thought the race was over at that point. But just slowly clawing my way back, forced Young into a mistake in the fountain, and then I was just hounding Mo. Stefan, I'm not sure what happened to Stefan, but I was just hounding Mo. I was just saving fuel the entire time, and I knew that was the only way that anything was going to happen here.
I was going to ask you about that next. You were so lightning quick on that pit stop. I mean, obviously, you took that short fuel. You were saving fuel. Were you concerned at any point that you weren't going to make it, or was everything just perfectly in plan?
No, I saved a lot of fuel in the first stint, and then I kept saving in the second one. But it was down to the lap, but I was pretty confident on my fuel number there.
Well, I would certainly say it worked out for you at that point. Now, if you hadn't been in that position, I mean, it looked a little bit like the Corvettes were struggling a little bit to get by on the straightaway. Do you think that maybe going in and doing that, the fuel strategy was your only way by, or do you think you could have taken Mo just out on the track itself?
Oh, there was no way anyone was passing in a Corvette. The Porsches and the BMWs have a really good launch off the exit, or maybe I just suck at exits, but there was no way a pass was going to happen. So from lap one, I was fuel saving because that was the only way to make up ground here.
Well, there you go. And as I said, it worked pretty well for you, Paul. Anybody you'd like to thank for this really great win here tonight?
Yeah, definitely want to thank my teammate Paul Slavonic for providing all the paints for the team and helping me with the setups on this one with the VRS. But just thank all the team for coming out. We got to really try and fight back the last two races here in the team's championship.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world. Thank you. That was Paul Darling, your winner in the GT Pro category tonight. And now Chad Irvine has caught up with your GTD winner, Ryan Wash.
Yeah, Ryan, I apologize after Hockenheim. I think that we said that we kind of got rid of the lazy boy. We brought it back in here in the booth for you. You've got plenty of space to just lounge about. Man, how does it feel to be back in the booth after a 5th consecutive victory?
Is it 5 now? I don't know. Eric definitely gave me a run for my money in qualifying. And then I was completely just out of it at the beginning. So I was definitely glad to finally hit the groove after, I think it was lap 10 or something like that. And then traffic broke it up. And then I think just Eric got a little unlucky with traffic. It definitely feels good again, especially this one is I'm not a big fan of Long Beach. It's a little bit of a doozer for me. I was trying to stay awake towards the end, but it always does feel good.
Not sure how you can fall asleep here with just concrete walls everywhere and faster traffic all around you. What was it like being the slowest of the 3 classes with just having to watch out your rearview mirror the entire race?
Well, it's not as hard in Autobahn as it is with other leagues, and especially with officials. I mean, everybody's respectful out there. Sure, there's some times where it's a little questionable, but it's few and far between, and everybody kind of knows where it's acceptable to make a pass and where it's not acceptable. And today I didn't have any issues, so all worked out for me.
Now, I'm no Purdue student. I'm not great at math, but our math tells us you have clinched the championship here in GT3s. How does that make you feel?
Does it actually? Wait, seriously? Oh, I'm actually gonna have to go do the math on that to confirm that. I mean, if I have clinched it, that's great. That's actually super exciting. That's news to me. I thought I would have to get through Bathurst first, but if that is the case, then I'm super stoked. No doubt about it. I started here last season, and I came in. I was debating between GTE and GT3, and I said I'm going to give GT3 another shot because I want to win the championship before I move into GTE. So if this was championship done, then I guess it's on to the next one.
Well, our math is telling us you came in with a 46-point lead. The most you can take from each round is 23, and you finished ahead of Atterbury on track. So, yeah, everything on our end is telling us you've clinched championship. But, man, I mean, it's been an incredible run for you. Who helped get you here?
Definitely my teammates at Satellite. Couldn't have done it without them. especially this run that I've been on. I think it's 5 for 7 now, or 7 for 8 or something like that.
And 7 for 8 with a second place, the one that interrupted it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been good. It's been nice having those teammates. Definitely makes it a lot of fun. Congratulations to Jason as well, and to I believe Paul won in GTE. It looked like it was a bad day for DMG compared to us here in VRS. So I guess it's up to it focuses to the team championship.
Well, hey, congratulations on a great, fantastic run, Ryan, and best of luck the rest of the way. But it looks like all you have to left fight for is the team's championship. So, hey, congratulations on another win.
Thanks, yes.
That's what Ryan Walsh, the winner in GTM. Looks now like Cy has caught up with Luke Carbonneau.
Well, welcome, Luke. Started 5th, finished 2nd. Tell us about your race.
First of all, good evening, boys. It was the kind of race that you got when you are on a street circuit. A lot of traffic, not a lot of space to pass, but really fun. Just got a feeling that you are driving Monaco. Well, are so close. That's really amazing. That's the most amazing part. It's when we said that it's really important to just go on the wall, not it, but just go flirt a little bit with the wall. That's really the part that it's really amazing. And the good news is I didn't have hit the wall yet, so the call was perfect from start until the end.
Well, this was one of the closest LMP fields we've ever seen in terms of qualifying, because the entire top 5 were within a 10th and a half, if I'm looking at this correctly here. Almost 2/10, I'd say. And you were within, I would say, a 10th of starting right behind the top 2. And especially you saw that incident with David Williams going into turn 1 on lap 1. Tell us what happened there. Did you both kind of outbrake yourselves?
I didn't have a hard break. I just saw Wolf and Williams break a little bit later with cold tires and with fuel tank completely full. So at the moment I knew that, something's bad's gonna happen, and I just saw Williams ahead of me. I was like, okay, so hold the brake. I'm gonna go right, and he held the brake. So I have been able to pass at the right side of the racetrack, but I was a little bit scared. I was like, no, please. I don't want to wreck in first corner in the first lap of the race. Make me wait a little bit later, but not at the beginning. So I just saw them push a little bit too hard at the braking point, and they lose control. And you cross your fingers and you said to yourself, God, just this time, just let me pass.
Well, I believe this is your 5th podium in Autobahn. So congrats on that. And I believe that should be, well, what are your thoughts going into Bathurst? That's for certain, because Long Beach is one thing, but Bathurst is a completely different beast. Tell us about that.
I think that I'm gonna make laugh some people of my team. Bathurst is one of the track like Nordschleife that I love to race in Long Beach, because you don't have a space to go a little bit wider than the racetrack that we can do now with the newest racetrack like Kota, like Montreal at some point. So you don't have space to make a mistake. So the driver who's going to see the most consistent and also who's going to be more careful with the car, going to have the greatest, the biggest mover on the good ways. So, I mean, I just can't wait to drive Bathurst. It's a track that I love to do. I love to do the 12 hours. So, like I said 2 months ago, the most important thing is just come here and have fun.
Well, congrats on your 2nd place finish here, Luke.
Thank you. Have a good evening, boys.
Next, we have DJ with a 3rd place finisher in GT Pro with Young Park.
We do indeed, Young Park. You had a wonderful, wonderful drive out there. You were flirting with the lead there at the beginning, lost a little bit through the traffic, but still a podium. You've got to feel happy with that coming away from a tricky track like Long Beach. Young, you got a copy? All right, and now Chad Irvine, I believe, is caught up with Eric Godot-Drapeau.
Yeah, Eric, an incredible run today, finishing second. You have been chasing Ryan Wash the last couple of races. What's this season been like for you? And just talk about your race.
Well, first of all, guys, it's been a long time coming. Good evening. It's been a while since I was hoping to have a chat with you after the races, but just a string of bad luck, especially in the middle sector of that season, like the last 5 or 6 races. Just some things didn't go my way, and finally getting one tonight where it feels great. Definitely had the pace coming in. I knew Ryan was going to be quick. I knew it was going to be a hard one. He definitely had me on traffic. We talked about it a few moments ago where he's able to manage that traffic so well, and I'm losing seconds over seconds every lap. I get caught up with LMP2s or GTEs, but yeah, it's a feel good moment. It's one that definitely I knew was going to be even sweeter the longer I had to wait for it.
Yeah, I couldn't believe looking at the scoring from this season. I had to ask the guys just to confirm this was your first podium. Congratulations on that. I got a couple more races left. Bathurst coming up next week. What are your thoughts going from somewhere where there's no runoff to another place where you got runoff in some areas, but that downhill section can be very scary?
It's a funny one because I thought Long Beach was going to be such a challenge, and it was. I mean, it was an hour of driving on a scooter against other cars on the motorway. Basically, it was really hard to manage traffic, and that's going to be the same thing with Bathurst. If you get an LMP2 car stuck behind you in the mountain, it's going to be a challenge to stay focused and hit your apexes throughout that downhill section. But yeah, it's a track that definitely, just like Long Beach, I'm going to have to log some laps. I've done the homeworks, which was something early in the season I wasn't putting enough effort throughout the week to just get the car where I wanted it to be. And tonight, like, that thing was just stuck on the track, wasn't going anywhere else than where I was hoping it to go. And if it wasn't for traffic, I hope that would have given Ryan a bit more of his of a challenge, but just unfortunate as well what happened with Joey. I mean, I think it was just a situation where we were both going for the same real estate in a corner that just funnels into a single line. I mean, I had my string of unfortunate contacts early on, Mosport especially. I remember I was going for a podium as well, and it just didn't go my way. So it's one of those part of racing where that time it definitely got a little bit in my way.
Eric, I'd love to ask you more. It sounds like we've got to get things moving along, but congratulations on your first podium. We got a couple more races. We'll get you back up here in the booth next week.
Sure thing, guys. Thanks a lot for the broadcast as well.
Thank you. And that's congratulations to Eric and Joe Drapeau. And it looks now like DJ has caught up with Young Park.
All right, we're going to try this again. Young Park, do you have a copy on me, my friend? All right, and said Carter Cunninger now is catching up with Joe Peak.
Indeed. Carter, a third place today. First, before we get to the race itself, let's talk about that pole position. That caught us off guard. Did you know you had that sort of speed around here?
I mean, in all honesty, no, I didn't know until like the last 3 minutes when I put down like a lap time that was essentially a 10th off pole. And, you know, I was talking to Mo and Luke going to my last lap, and I'm like, oh, we'll see what happens. And all of a sudden I'm going on the front straight, and I'm 2/10 in the green, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? I look, and I got pulled by like, I think it was like 8 thousandths. So I guess I can check that off the list of pole in an Autobahn race. But yeah, I was shocked, and honestly, I mean, it was, if you're gonna get a pole at any track this season, I think this is the track to do it.
Yeah, it was a bit sad. We were kind of having the same discussion behind the scenes. For like, well, where's our stats for pole? We don't have that at our hands. We'd love to know what if that was your first. But let's talk about the race now. You've managed a third. Unfortunately, at the very beginning, you did lose the lead. But talk about DeVries battling side by side through the fountain. That seemed incredibly aggressive for the very first lap.
Oh no, I mean that was honestly a ton of fun. Knowing that we were going side by side into the fountain on the first lap, I was like, oh boy, here we go. But no, I mean I respect DeVries a lot, and you know, we respect each other's driving. And so we managed to get through there really clean, which honestly was awesome. I mean, that's one thing I'm never going to be able to do on iRacing. I don't think ever again, go side by side through the fountain. But yeah, no, I mean, as for the race, it's Joe, I tried so hard, and sometimes you just come up short. And I honestly had zero luck tonight with the traffic, with my incident with Jeffrey, where I honestly just had nowhere to go. And then there were just too many times where I just kept catching these GT cars in really bad spots, like even going into the fountain, or just where they were slowing down basically right on my even adjusted line too, where I was trying to get around them. But yeah, I mean, just zero luck tonight, honestly. Definitely one of the better shots I'd have at a win here in this league, and unfortunately it just kind of went through my grasp. So I guess we'll just have to try with these next 2 rounds here.
Of course. Still, it's your 3rd podium in a row and your 4th on the season. Anybody you'd like to thank for helping make this one happen?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd like to just basically thank, obviously, the guys at AOD, the team that I raced for, and, obviously I wouldn't be here if it weren't for those guys. And then the other 3 AOD guys in Autobahn here, Dominic, who couldn't be here because he does not own the track, which we still bug him about, but he just keeps insisting he doesn't want to buy Long Beach for whatever reason. So, and then Mo and Luke for running this league week in, week out. We honestly have a fun every Monday night. And then obviously the organizers at Autobahn, because we wouldn't be racing if it weren't for them.
Well, someone's got to talk to Dom then, because not sure why anybody wouldn't want to buy Long Beach. That was Carter Kundinger, who finished 3rd today in the prototypes, and that rounds out our interviews for the evening. Of course, we want to give a big thank you to the Autobahn series for bringing us back for another season of coverage as well, and thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. There's her Bandcamp listed there. And thanks to the team today, Sean, Chad, DJ, Dougie, and Cy. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media through the outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. 2 weeks from now, we're heading off to Bathurst for Monday, May 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern. But we also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.